Hey guys, Brig here. This is the first of my profession guides for Battle for Azeroth. Today we are going to be talking about cooking. Before we begin, we will have a WoW token giveaway this episode, so all you have to do is comment on this video and be subscribed to my channel for your chance to win, and I'll reply to your comment and message you in a few days' time if you are the winner, so good luck to everyone for entering. Anyways, I will be doing guides for all of the professions in BFA, and cooking's kind of the easiest, so I'll get that one out of the way. It's nothing too difficult. In fact, none of the professions are too difficult in BFA. It's not quite as complicated as some of the Legion ones. But anyway, let's get to it. In terms of getting started with cooking, you don't have to do any cooking from any previous expansions. It's really easy. And in terms of leveling up, it's very cheap and easy. Most of the stuff is with vendor bought materials. Like this. To make the lower loaf, you just need the wild flour, the honey, the sugar, all of which you can buy from the cooking vendor, really cheap. And then you just need some fish oil you get off the auction house. So to level up your cooking to 100 or whatever level you need to learn all of the stuff is very cheap and easy. So probably the most important thing I would say for cooking is to get your reps super high, and particularly the Tortolan reputation. These guys are very important because they give you the rank 2s and the rank 3s for the feasts, which are going to be your best selling cooking thing, and we'll get into that a bit later. But turtle rep is very important. You want to get to revered with them, and it's not too easy to do, but if you're on your main character, you know, you're going to get there eventually. And that's why I always suggest getting cooking on your main character, because it is a secondary profession. You can get it on whatever character you want. You might as well get it on your main who's running all the world quests, because they're going to be able to unlock the turtle rep. And they're also going to be able to unlock the rank 3s, which you get from certain world quests around the place when they pop up. Anyway, for those of you who aren't very experienced with cooking, the basic things that you can make are just the stuff that restores your mana. Really simple. Then there are the stuff that gives you some secondary stats. So these desserts give you 41 of different secondary stats. You can then get a large meal, and these give you 55 of different secondary stats. So these are good, and people buy them quite a lot, especially if they're running Mythic Plus, or even in their raid. If their raid doesn't have a feast, they'll at least get their own food buffs that they can use. So that's going to be really good. These large meals are going to be a really good seller for you. And then there are the feasts. Now the feasts, there's two different types. There's the one that gives you 75 of your main stat for an hour, and then there's the one that gives you 100 of your main stat for an hour. Now these feasts are usually bought by very high Mythic Pluses, Mythic Plus teams, or any sort of raid group that want to, improve their chances as most as possible. And these are going to be your best sellers along with the large meals. Anyway, in terms of making some serious gold with cooking, it's going to completely depend on your server. But there are three main things that I would suggest that's going to help you make the most gold possible. And the first one is, of course, the rank 3s, as I said before. The Tortolan reputation, you really want to get that to revered, so you can get the rank 3s of the feasts. That will, first of all, get from rank 1 to rank 2. That will cut down the Midnight Salmon you need from 3 to 2. Midnight Salmon is a bit cheaper recently, but still, that is a good thing. And then to get from rank 2 to 3, that will cut down the fish you need from 18 to 15, which again is going to save you a few hundred gold. And when you're on a competitive server, that few hundred gold can make the difference between losing gold and making gold, as you can see right here. Now the second thing, and the most important thing in terms of making serious gold with cooking, is buying the materials cheaply, particularly buying the fish cheaply. Now a lot of people don't do this, and a lot of people complain that they can't make any gold with cooking, but that's usually not the case. It's usually, if you can buy at the right price, then you're going to make a really good profit. But a lot of people are too lazy to do that, or they just don't think about doing that. Another thing to think about is the TSM for crafting and profit values if you are using TSM. So as you know, it shows the profit value here, but that usually takes into account market value values rather than current values. For example, the market value of Midnight Salmon on my realm is 300, whereas the actual value is about half that, 160. It's recently dropped in price quite a lot. So I'm actually making 160 gold more than what TSM says. So I'd actually be making about 400 gold profit per feast rather than 228. So that's a fairly significant amount, and it can make a difference when it looks like you're going to be losing gold, and actually you could be making gold TSM just hasn't got the right values. So you always have to pay attention to that. So how do we buy these materials cheaply? Well, what I do is I use a TSM string. So if you do have TSM, you can use a string that will search for all different materials, whichever ones you want, and it will tell you if they're cheap, and if they are cheap, you can buy them. So I will leave a link in the description below to the Lazy Gold Makers TSM string for the BFA materials. And this has loads of different materials, but if we go down here, it does have all the different cooking things, so all the meat and all the fish that's required for cooking. So you can just do a cooking search for these materials, and if they're cheap, I think 80% is the value that he put at, so if they're below 80%, it will tell you, and you can buy them out below market value, and that is really, really important for cooking, guys. If you are on a high pop server, you're not going to make any decent gold unless you buy the materials as cheaply as possible. So you need to be running scans fairly regularly, and whenever there's a significantly cheap fish up or cheap bit of meat, then you need to buy that out, store it in your bank, in Guild Bank, and then craft and cook when necessary. So here is an example of that TSM shopping string for the different cooking stuff. And as you can see, there's some really cheap ones, particularly the meats, but the meats are always cheap, so it's not that significant buying those out, but still, if you can get them really cheap, then it can't help. And this percentage here, as we say, Lazy Gold Maker set his to 80%, so where it says 100, that means 100 of 80%, so this means 80% of market value. So the red tail loach, or whatever you want to call them, loach, 62 gold, that is 80% of their usual market value. So if I wanted to stock up, I'd buy up all of these that are below 80%, and that would help me get cheap materials. You know, the midnight salmon in particular are going very, very cheap at the moment, but obviously that's because everyone stocked them up when they were too high, and that meant they fell. Now, what we want to do, guys, is be very careful when we're stocking up, especially right now when the market is very, very volatile. For example, midnight salmon is crazy going up and down in price, and we want to be very careful buying it. So look, someone's put a stack of 50 up for 155 gold. That seems like a good deal, but it could go down even cheaper in a few days. It also could go up in a few days. You know, just use your common sense and don't start buying stuff out when it could just fall again the next day. But yeah, do check out the Lazy Gold Makers paste bin, guys. It is very, very good. I need to be updating mine as well, but I've been very lazy recently, unlike the Lazy Gold Maker. And yeah, here we are. Here's the cooking one. So you can just press on that, run the shopping scan, and it will find anything that's below 100%, which will be below 80% or whatever value you want to set it at. So that's what you want to do, and that's going to get you some cheap materials. Of course, you can also do the old-fashioned way, spam in trade chat, want to buy fish, 150 gold, want to buy this fish, 50 gold, whatever, like people were doing, or like people always do, basically. And you can make a nice macro. I've done lots of videos on how to link items in macros, but it's a very good way of doing it as well. And maybe you can get some big sellers, some guys crazy about fishing, and he can just always send you some cash on delivery, or he can always just come and trade you when he's got a lot of stuff. And again, that's how you get the best possible prices for your items. The third thing, and another very, very important thing if you want to make gold with any profession, but particularly stuff like alchemy, particularly stuff like feasts, and that is selling the right stack size. So for example, you want to spread out your stack sizes. You want to still selling stacks of 5, stacks of 10, stacks of 20, you know, maybe some stacks of 1 if you're selling feasts, but usually in the higher stack sizes, and they will usually go for more. Now, when you're on the biggest raiding server in the EU, or one of them like you are with me, then it's going to be a bit of a problem and very, very competitive. But still, you can find ways to get a better price for your items. For example, a lot of people will buy feasts in stacks of 5 because they don't want to buy in huge stack sizes because they're very expensive, but they'll still want to get some feasts up, you know, ready for the wipes or whatever. So say a single person maybe will buy some feasts in a stack of 5. And the stacks of 5 on my realm are going for 50 gold more per item than the stacks of 10 and 20. So if I was to post up stacks of 5, I would post at 1,998 rather than at 1,948. And it might not seem like a lot, but I'm saving 50 gold a time, and that's per stack would be 50 times 5. So it's 250 gold a time, which is, you know, it all adds up. If I suddenly sell 10 stacks of that, then that's 2,500 gold. And it's not the best margin at the moment on my server, but on a lot of servers there'll be loads of stacks of 1 and 2 here, and then there'll be a big stack of 20 sort of down here at like 500 gold more per item than the stacks of 10. In fact, you see some people selling stacks of 20 for literally double the price of the single stacks of 1. And some people will still buy them because they're very lazy, and that's just how people work. So if it makes sense on your server, do have a look and do undercut the stack size. You know, you can set TSM to undercut stack size rather than just undercutting any random stack size, because that's going to be a problem and it's not going to make you as most gold as possible. Anyway guys, I think that's probably about it. The most important thing for cooking is to buy your materials cheaply and run shopping scans. And if you can do that, and if you can start getting some good prices, especially when, you know, the prices even out over the next couple of weeks like they will. We are in Mythic Week still, so there's going to be some interesting pricing, and a lot of people stocked up on certain items, so there's still going to be a bit of toing and throwing there. But basically you need to buy materials cheaply, and once you've got that sorted with your shopping scans, then you're going to be making some profit. Obviously pay attention to the time you're posting. Post just before raid times. Obviously pay attention to the stack size. Post in nice stack sizes, you can sell them for more. And that's about it. Make sure you get your rank 3s, unlike me. Need to stop being so lazy. And yeah, that's about it guys. Hope you enjoyed. It's a fairly easy one, nothing too complicated, but we'll get it out of the way and we'll get into more complicated ones in a few days time. So thanks for watching this profession guide, and until next time, see ya. Sort of